obesity isn't a disease, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of another disease, and that disease is chronic inflammation. Fat is our friend, but as we allow our weight to get out of control, what happens is that fat becomes a double agent. It starts working against us. Ultra-processed foods make us heavy. It's also killing off your microbiome, which is leading to inflammation. It's impossible to overstate how critical the microbiome is to controlling your health and maintaining it. There's a reason we're gaining weight, and it's not being explored.
Hey there, April of Yes to Next here. In this podcast, join my mom and me as we talk with Stephen Perrine, author of the new book, The Full Body Fat Fix. Among Stephen's many accolades are he's co-author of the New York Times bestseller, The Whole Body Reset. Now in this chat, Stephen talks about what inflammation is and how we can reduce it to heal our gut and to build a healthier, leaner body. Let's get started. Hey Stephen, great to see you.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We loved talking with you back in 2022 about the whole body reset, and we're super excited to hear what you have to say about your new book, The Full Body Fat Fix. So can you talk to us about what inspired you to write this book?
Well, sure. I've got to say, one of the things that I always was curious about is why one of the best indicators for your weight is your zip code. Why is it that people who live in counties in the U.S. where income is 45,000 or less are far more likely to be overweight than people who live in counties where household income is 65,000 or more? And I used to see this myself when my kids were young, and I would drive up from New York City up to far upstate New York, where I grew up, and you just see the people get bigger and bigger, and then you turn around and you go back down and they get smaller and smaller. And of course we know, well, calories, it's about calories. And calories come from food, and food costs money. And we know, for example, that fast food actually is lower in calories than sit-down chain restaurants, and that fancy, expensive restaurants are even higher in calories. So if people with more money are taking in more calories, why are they thinner while people who are eating fewer calories are gaining weight? So I realized there is a story that hasn't been told here. There's a reason we're gaining weight, and it's not being explored. And so I wanted to do a deep dive into that phenomenon, and that's what made me realize through research that the primary driver of weight gain is an issue called chronic inflammation. So we're told that obesity is a disease, right? And that's a great way of making people feel like they don't need to be ashamed. They don't need to feel like it's their fault. It's something that is a health issue that can be treated. And that's true, but a better way to think about it is that obesity isn't a disease, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of another disease, and that disease is chronic inflammation. And if we go after chronic inflammation, that's how we're going to lose weight, stay lean, and get rid of so many of the health dangers that come with aging.
Right. Now, and you talk a lot about inflammation and what causes it. So, what happens in our bodies? We're hearing all this about, we hear a lot about the gut microbiome, all this stuff. So, tell us more about that and how that relates to fat and health.
Well, as we get older, a number of things happen. One of them is that chronic inflammation just naturally rises. So the reason why even the healthiest, fittest person is still a little bit heavier than they were when they were younger is that their inflammation levels have increased. But there's a lot that you can do to help reduce inflammation. And the number one driver of inflammation is the gut microbiome, which is made up about 100 trillion various bacteria, fungi, yeasts, etc., that live primarily inside of your large intestine. It's about 5 pounds worth of microbes living inside of you. And they are the master controllers of inflammation, they're the master controllers of a lot of hormones. For example, 95% of serotonin, the very hormone that antidepressants are meant to boost, is manufactured in the gut. Oxytocin, the love hormone, that's manufactured in the gut, which is one reason why those of us with the healthiest gut microbiomes are the least likely to be anxious, depressed, and socially isolated.
That's amazing.
Interesting.
Huh? Yeah. And now, you say, you talk about, most diets are trying to solve that problem about fat, right?
Yeah.
But I love your analogy that, you likened it to like putting out a house fire by turning on the AC and not really addressing the problem, So yeah, what's
Yeah,
causing the
no,
fire, right?
exactly. I mean, again, it goes to the idea of like, how do we feel about ourselves, right? So if you if you had hay fever and your nose was runny and your eyes were runny and you were teary, you wouldn't walk around calling yourself a crybaby. You'd be like, oh, I have these symptoms from an autoimmune disease, an inflammatory disease. That is exactly what obesity is. It is a symptom of this very similar type of situation. In fact, when we look at belly fat in people who are obese, as much as 40% of that tissue is not made up of fat cells. It's made up of autoimmune cells. So as you're feeling like, oh, my belly feels big, it feels bloated, remember there's a lot of autoimmune cells in there, and that's what's causing that belly bloat.
Wow. And so what's causing all this inflammation and what causes an unhealthy microbiome?
Sure. Well, as we age, one of the things that happens is our microbiomes age as well. So the same kind of, challenges that we face as we go through life, our microbiomes do as well. They evolved to live with us. But the other thing that happens is we're not very good at caring for our microbiomes. So we tend to eat a lot of foods that are not necessarily good for them. And that's one of the reasons why people will say ultra processed foods are inflammatory or fast food is inflammatory. Well, what does that mean? What it means is that it's not healthy for your microbiome. So let's say that you and I both eat the same number of calories today. Let's say we both eat 2,000 calories today. But my diet is made up primarily of ultra processed foods, chips, white bread, desserts, things that have been stripped of their natural nutrients, their fiber, and then had things like emulsifiers and preservatives added in. Another way to think about an ultra processed food would be a pre-digested food. So when we eat, right? Yeah, it's gnarly when you think about it, but that is exactly what we're talking about. So if I eat my 2,000 calories of pre-digested food, that food gets absorbed very quickly in my stomach and my small intestine. It never makes it into my large intestine. It never makes it to my gut microbiome. Now, if you eat a diet that's fully whole foods, that food goes in and it feeds the gut microbiome. So guess which one of us is going to have the healthier microbiome?
We win, Mom.
You win. You will. So that means that a number of things are happening there. Number one, my microbiome is losing health and diversity and robustness. And because of that, unhealthy species are starting to take over. There's less diversity. That leads to inflammation, first in the gut and then throughout the body, and that inspires weight gain. Another thing is happening, which is that those pre-digested foods, because I'm absorbing all of them, guess what else I'm absorbing? All of the calories that come with them. So your gut microbiome actually competes with you for calories. So even though we may eat the same amount of food, we may eat 2,000 calories a day each, I'm absorbing as much as 400 calories more every day because my gut microbiome isn't competing with me. It's not making up the difference.
Wow. So basically, your ultra processed diet is just going straight into fat.
It's going
Right.
straight into your body and it's going straight into fat. And then it's also killing off your microbiome, which is leading inflammation, which is making you more fat.
Right. And also not using a lot of calories, right? I mean, it's going, your microbiome has to digest all that stuff. So that's even using energy too. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So the more fiber and the more protein you eat, that increases the thermic effect of eating. So you naturally burn calories just in the digestive process. So that's a third way in which ultra processed foods make us heavy.
Wow. I think that's going to be a revelation to a lot of people.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. Now my mom's 83, right? You had a question about.
Well, actually, Stephen answered that already about how they stay with you, right? It ages with you, the microbiome.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, the first place that frailty shows up is in the microbiome. It's the first place you can diagnose it. It's a predictor of your future health.
Wow. So see, my biome is 83 years old already.
Yay! Your biome's doing okay, I think.
Yeah, if your microbiome may not be showing any signs of that. There's 83 and then there's 83.
Well, that's true.
I'm going to see the Rolling Stones next weekend.
Oh, you are?
That's not like what 83 normally looks like. I think Mick is 81, I think. Yeah.
I think
He
so.
is.
And you know what? I think he has a really healthy microbiome because I saw him jumping around on stage. I'm like, wow, that is incredible.
He definitely
right?
has a very healthy microbiome. In fact, studies show that elite athletes have healthier microbiomes than the average fit person.
Wow.
Right. So part of what that microbiome does is it improves your competitive spirit. It makes you more hungry for victory. It makes you, again, less distracted by things like anxiety and loneliness and depression and more focused on your goals. So even those of us who are more successful in life are probably those of us who are better at feeding our microbiomes.
Interesting.
Really interesting. Now you also talked about how just as a human being, what our bodies were designed for. So, back in caveman days, we had different needs, right? And comparing it to our lifestyles today, what's the change here and how should we be living? Should we be living like cavemen?
Well, I'm not sure I want to eat a caveman diet exactly. But one thing that they did find when they went into caves where Paleolithic people lived, and they were able to find out a lot about their diets by looking at the remnants of caveman poop. And within there, they found that the average caveman had about 55 different plants that he or she ate during the course of a day or so. And today we eat far fewer. In fact, there are about 50,000 edible plants that grow on Earth. But 2/3 of the plants that we eat in America are made up of 3 species: wheat, corn, and rice. Among vegetables, half of the vegetables we eat are just 2: potatoes and tomatoes. So a study from the American Gut Project found that people with the healthiest microbiomes are those who eat at least 30 different plants a week. Because a healthy microbiome is a diverse microbiome. It's like, I think of it as like a Yosemite of you, right? All these different species and they all eat different things. It's like if you go out to your bird feeder and you put one kind of seed in there, you're only going to get a handful of different birds. If you put a wide variety of seeds, you'll get a wide variety of birds.
That's true.
Right.
Right. So the same thing is true of your gut microbiome.
Yeah. That was really a learning point for me because I was like, we eat fruits and vegetables, but we eat a lot of them, but we don't eat a lot of variety. Right. To your point, it's what's in the grocery store and so being very conscious and intentional about, getting some variety with your fruits and vegetables.
We've been sold this idea of superfoods.
Yeah.
Like, oatmeal and blueberries and almonds. And if I just eat that every single day, I'm going to be good to go. And that concept is it's a marketing idea, but it's not real. The only superfood is the food that you're not eating.
Right. Good
Right?
point.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's why in the Full Body Fat Fix, I created a 7-day challenge. And the idea here is to do a few things. We're going to cut out ultra processed foods. And at the same time, we're going to really focus on how many different plants we can get into our first 7 days. So that you're really kind of teaching yourself, like, what am I eating? How can I improve it? So it could be as simple as if you like the oatmeal with almonds and blueberries, great. But tomorrow, have walnuts and raspberries. The day after that, have blackberries and pecans. Right? Like, always just be conscious of mixing it up. And it's not that hard. When I did the 7-day challenge, I got to 65 different plants. So I consider myself the world record holder, and I challenge your viewers and listeners to try to beat me.
All right, Mom, challenge is on.
Oh, you
Race
got
is
it.
on.
All right.
We accept it. So,
Because I really wanted it to be fun. It's not a
Yeah.
diet. It's a scavenger hunt.
oh, I love that. I love that. And now the thing is, within 1 week, I realize it's a kind of a kickstart kind of thing, but can you see changes in the microbiome within 1 week? By doing
You
this?
can see changes in your microbiome very rapidly. Yeah.
Okay.
There was an experiment done in London where a researcher had his son eat only McDonald's for 10 days.
Right.
And they measured his microbiome beforehand, and at the end of the 10 days, he had lost 1,500 distinct species of microbes, or about a little more than a quarter of all of the different species in his microbiome were wiped out just in 10 days. Some studies have shown that you can improve the health of your microbiome with one simple exercise workout. When they looked at half marathon runners, they found that their microbiomes were healthier at the end of the race than they were at the beginning of the race. So both exercise and a whole foods diet have a almost instantaneous effect.
Right. So yeah. So a lot of people are trying to lose weight, and we often hear like, "Oh, it's not coming off," or "I don't feel it." But to your point, changes can be happening inside your body, and you have to be patient and consistent. What's your take
Right.
on that?
And the things that you do today pay off, show up in about 2 weeks. That's 10 days to 2 weeks. That's why in the 7-day challenge, one of the things I have you do is cut down carbohydrates dramatically, because that's going to automatically have you lose 3, 4, 5 pounds, because your body holds on to water when it's storing carbohydrate calories. So when you cut down on carbohydrates, your body has to release that water. It has no need for it. So it's just an automatic. It's a cheat, really, but it's a quick weight loss, and you're like, oh, look at that. Maybe I won't go and restock my pantry with all these junk foods.
Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm kind of getting off topic here, but with exercise, so you may see, if you cut down the carbs early on, see some weight loss. But then if you're working out, you're building muscle too.
The number on the scale isn't important.
Right.
It's how do you look? How do you feel? How healthy are you? Where are your inflammation levels?
Right.
If you make a muscle, if you like hold up a muscle and feel that bicep, that's about 5% of your total muscle mass, total skeletal muscle mass. That's how much we lose every decade after age 30. Unless we really focus on eating protein throughout the day and exercising. So when we lose muscle mass, we lose a lot of benefits, and not just the ability to carry the groceries, right? Muscle is where we store extra blood sugar. So when we lose muscle, we lose the ability to store extra blood sugar. So you overdo it, your body can't do anything with that except turn it into fat, right? The other thing it does is it also obviously increases your risk of diabetes, right? As you have blood sugar flooding into your body. And the other thing that muscle does is it burns more calories, right? Not it's not a tremendous thing, but it's enough to make a little bit of a difference. And so that's why holding on to that muscle is so important. And studies show that the people who eat the most fruits and vegetables throughout their lives hold on to the most muscle as they age.
Yeah. Okay, so strength training.
Strength training, yes, important.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Okay, so now you are author of the Whole Body Reset, and so I'm wondering, how does this plan align with the Whole Body Reset, which was a plan designed for people in midlife, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
what's great about the full body fat fix is that you can apply it to whatever your preferred eating plan is. If you're doing a Mediterranean diet, or if you're doing a paleo diet, or if you're doing the whole body reset, it's simply taking the foods you like to eat and then adding more plants on top of it. And by plants, what I mean is fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, right? So, anything, if it grew on a tree or out of the ground, put it in your mouth. That's the rule. So, um, if you just love pizza and you order pizza twice a week, well, why not take that regular cheese pizza and add maybe some broccoli, some fresh garlic, some black olives, and boost that number of plants? If you love pasta, how about a pasta dish, but it's got some, maybe some peas or some cauliflower mixed into it? If you love sandwiches, great, but get the steak, use a whole wheat bun or a multi-grain bun, and put some grilled vegetables on top of that. Smoothies, make sure if you're having your protein smoothie that you're putting plenty of fruits and vegetables into that. And think every day, what did I not have yesterday? Because what you didn't have yesterday is what should be top of mind today.
Right. And I know that protein in both of your books is high priority. And in this book specifically, you really zero in on whey protein as a booster, which I thought was really interesting, because I struggle with getting 25, 30 grams of protein in a meal. Yeah.
Yeah, and whey protein, for two reasons why it's so important. Number one, it's rich in the amino acid leucine, which is specifically important for older people. It has been shown to stimulate muscle growth in older people better than other kinds of protein. That's number one. Number two, for reasons that aren't really explained, the microbiome likes whey protein. You're feeding your muscles and you're feeding your belly bugs, and that's a double payoff. And with whey protein, like I use it in smoothies, but you can do a lot of different things with it. One thing I've started doing is like when I have cereal, I'll mix whey protein and milk together and shake that up and pour it in. And I have like a little vanilla flavored milk, and that's my morning cereal. You can you can make puddings out of it. You can add it to, any kind of dairy, put it on top of yogurt. You can get unflavored whey and stir it into soups and things like that. There are a lot of different ways that you can incorporate it into your day.
That's awesome. Okay, so how about for vegetarians who say that, oh, no whey protein for me? Are there any alternatives to whey that can be a substitute?
Well, if you're vegan specifically, and so you're avoiding all animal products, including dairy, then you need to be very careful to make sure you're combining your sources, right? So one of the traditional ways is to combine a legume, meaning beans, lentils, peanuts, with a whole grain. So a lot of traditional foods, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that's a whole protein. Pita and hummus, that's a whole protein. Stir fried with soybeans, that's a whole protein. So a lot of traditional foods do sort of have, we somehow cuisines evolved to understand this. Yeah.
That's good to have choices.
Right.
How about this whole idea of supplements? everybody's hawking supplements. It's very confusing. And I know you talk about this in the book, and I think your advice is really important. So can you share your thoughts on vitamins and supplements?
So as we get older, there are a handful of supplements we should be thinking about. Certainly vitamin D3, B12, not because it's lacking in our diets, but because our bodies tend to have difficulty absorbing it, and calcium. But there's no reason to overdo any of those, and it's best to ask your doctor about them. And if your blood work indicates you're low in any of them, great, absolutely take a supplement. As for any other supplements, most are probably not harmful, although some can be. Almost all are useless. And anything that's like a cleanse, no, absolutely not. Anything that's designed to help your liver, the number one cause of drug-induced liver failure is liver cleansing supplements, right? The other thing that I get asked about a lot is probiotics. Now, that would seem to be really good for your gut microbiome, but there are a number of reasons why probiotics that we get over the counter are completely useless. Number one, you don't know what you're getting. They're unregulated. So you don't know how long they've been on the shelf, if they even contain what they claim to contain. And even if they do, are those bacterium still alive? We don't know. That's number one. Number two, once you swallow them, your stomach is a lake of fire. So pretty much anything that's sent, alone into the lake of fire is boom, dead. It's not going to make it to your gut microbiome. And even if you got the highest quality with coated tablets that do manage to get through the lake of fire and into your microbiome, by law, the over-the-counter probiotics can only contain 3 different kinds of bacteria. There are 5,700 different species, and balance is the most important thing. So why are you giving these 3 species a leg up over the other 5,700 that you want to create balance in? It's like releasing a load of, coyotes into your Yosemite. Like, that's not helpful.
Right. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right.
In fact, studies show that people who have taken antibiotics, so that they've had, which does damage the gut microbiome, their microbiomes recover more slowly if they take probiotics afterward. You're better off not taking the probiotic.
Wow.
Interesting.
What does help, you can add a fiber supplement. That's certainly not going to hurt. But again, you're only really getting one kind of fiber. And the fact is, different species eat different things, right? Go back to the bird feeder. If a fiber supplement only is feeding one kind of bird, you want to get the whole array.
So eating natural, right? Eating whole foods,
Right.
is like
That's the key.
Is the key.
Right.
Oh, so say I'm like, okay, I hear you about this plan, but I'm just going to use Ozempic. I'm just going to like fast track it and do that. So, what's your take on that? And does that align with full body fat fix? How does that compare?
Well, we know the dangers of crash diets, right? We've all heard about that. That's what Ozempic is. Ozempic is a crash diet. Ozempic causes you to eat far fewer calories. Now, if you have a medical condition that requires serious medical intervention, absolutely, of course, that's a conversation that you have with your doctor. But to try to take it casually is essentially doing the same thing that a crash diet is going to do. It's going to cause rapid weight loss, but much of that weight loss is going to come from muscle mass. Your body doesn't want to give up fat. It wants to give up muscle. It wants to sacrifice muscle. So you're going to lose a lot of muscle. And as we get older, holding on to muscle is not only more important, but it's also more difficult. That's number one. Number two, when you lose muscle, guess what else happens? Your metabolism drops. Metabolism can never go back up. The only way you can increase your metabolism, so don't listen to any of the diet gurus or the supplement salesmen who are saying they're going to give you, like, boost your metabolism. The only thing that can boost your metabolism is gaining weight. That's it. So otherwise, once your metabolism resets at a lower point, that's where you are. That's it.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this kind of transitions into also exercise and the
Mhm.
role of exercise in losing and also maintaining weight. So can you recommend, you have a exercise plan, a full body fat fix plan that you talk about in your book. So can you tell us
Yeah.
more about that?
Well, it's very simple. It's
Yeah.
really moderate aerobic exercise. So
Mhm.
when you look at the microbiome and the effect that exercise has on it, exercise is good. In fact, it does seem that people who exercise because they're generating lactic acid, there's a theory that maybe the microbiome feeds on lactic acid, so that's helpful. But generally, microbiome is benefited by exercise. Very rigorous or very slow exercise, they can both have benefits, but moderate exercise is the best for the microbiome. And then weight training, resistance training, anything that builds your muscles is also going to have a beneficial effect for the microbiome and also for muscle maintenance and fat loss. So the program I put together was based on the studies that looked at microbiome impact, and it's really just a simple plan that involves mixing moderate aerobics and regular resistance training. It's nothing fancy, but it's very, very simple and laid out in a way that you can do it even if you're a beginner.
Yeah, no, I really liked what you recommended, and it made me think about, like, for a lot of older folks or even folks with limited mobility, how can we modify some of the exercises for them? Is it okay to, start with flexibility, mobility training, and then, slowly, gradually build up, endurance and strength?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
listen, chair exercises
Mm-hmm.
can definitely make a difference. If
Mm-hmm.
you're one of the issues for older people, especially, is getting up and down.
Right.
I don't necessarily want to lay down on a mat and then wait till somebody comes home to help me up. That's embarrassing.
Right. Right.
Uh, I had some back pain a few weeks ago, and I got on my back to kind of stretch it out, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh boy, I'm not getting up now. I had to, like, kind of roll over, and yeah, so that's not fun.
Yeah.
But chair exercises you can do with light weights or even like soup cans.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different moves, a lot of different stretches. You can definitely adapt. One
Yeah.
of the stretches in the book is called the flat belly fix stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a cheat exercise. So one of the reasons why we get out of alignment and why our bellies seem bigger, even if we're, like, still in a kind of a good place weight wise, is that our hip flexors get really tight, mostly from sitting, right? Those are the muscles that connect your hips to the top of your knees. Think about when you march in place, you're using your hip flexors. As they tighten, our hips tilt forward and our bellies spill forward. And something even as simple as, like, your chin winds up way out over your shoulders because your balance is off, right? Well, you want your ears, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, and your ankles all to be in alignment. So if you're out of alignment, this will help. And it also just basically make you look leaner. And it's a matter of, to do it in a chair, you just simply cross one leg over the other. I'm doing it right now.
Good, we're
Rest
doing
that
it.
rest one leg on your knee, and
Right.
then put your hand on that bent knee
Bent knee rest.
and push it away from you.
Yes. Like
And
figure
try to
four.
get try to get it as far away from your head as you can. So maybe you need to lean one way. Um, if you're flexible already, um, using something to a pad, a yoga block, or something to push the knee down away from you is going to stretch that hip flexor.
Right.
And yeah, boy, if you do that every day, that's going to have a real difference. It's such a great cheat for instantly looking leaner.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna just do like
Try
a
that.
figure. Yes,
Yeah.
I can see you're doing it. That's
Yeah,
very
it's
good.
good.
It's very good.
Good job. Well, when I was
Wait, you
growing,
look leaner already. It's amazing.
thank you. When I was growing up, we always talked about brown fat and white fat. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, and the brown fat was the one that was good for you, right? Of course, we all said, yuck. I mean, brown fat, right? Yeah. But I
Hmm.
guess white fat is what you're saying stays with you, right? Or sticks with you to make you fat, right?
Well, I
That's
think
a
So it's
bad
there's
not
one.
it's not good for you,
a great way to,
right?
first of all, fat is
Oh,
our friend. And I think it's important to realize that fat is our friend. When we are born, we're born with lots of fat, and it does a whole bunch of things. It protects us from disease, it helps balance our hormones. It's supposed to be working on our behalf. But as we allow our weight to get out of control, what happens is that fat becomes a double agent, starts working against us. And particularly, we're talking about visceral fat, that fat that connects, that collects in our bellies. And the more that gets out of control, the more our immune system says, this is bad, we'd better attack it. And then we begin to send out white blood cells into that fatty tissue to attack the fat. But of course, the fat just gets stressed out and it starts to swell even more. And that sends more immune cells into there. And that's how you wind up with this growth of fatty tissue, which again, remember, can be up to 40% autoimmune cells.
Okay, so we got some weak connections, but I did want to give you an opportunity to share anything that we may have missed in our lovely conversation here.
Well, I just want to reiterate that what really matters is making sure that you're eating a wide variety of plants, and that's not as difficult as it seems. For example, instead of buying like cocktail peanuts, get mixed nuts. Instead of getting one kind of lettuce, even if it's like a superfood, right, like spinach or kale, get a spring mix or a mix of lettuces. That's going to increase your plants. This is not an expensive thing to do. Um, Not to be a shill for Costco, but that's where I do a lot of my stuff. You can buy a lot of like big bags of mixed things there, frozen fruits, frozen vegetables, throwing a big pile of mixed, chopped, different frozen vegetables into a stir fry or fruits into a smoothie. So easy to do. Um, and again, you just want to eat those, your favorite foods, but try to take your favorite foods and give them that little extra boost of new and different plants. There's kinds of breads that you can buy instead of a whole standard whole wheat bread. You can buy a whole grain bread with 21 different seeds and grains in it. I mean, it's just so simple to do this, but you need to be conscious of it. And that's why for the first 7 days, keep track. There's a very simple way that you can kind of check off each of the plants as you eat them, write in some more, and see if you can get to that, well, beyond that 30. Can you get to the number that I got to? Can you beat me? Can you and your friends or you and your family make it a competition? Like start keeping diaries. Aha, I beat you again. Put some money on it. See who gets the $5 a piece pot, right? Like make it fun, make it a scavenger hunt. And it's a great way of just boosting that microbiome, lowering your inflammation. And when you do that, you're reducing your risk of so many health issues. I mean, we've linked the microbiome and a healthy microbiome to a lower risk of not just weight gain, but heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, Alzheimer's, certain forms of cancer, asthma, COPD. so the health benefits are just it's impossible to overstate how critical the microbiome is to controlling your health and maintaining it.
We just got the point that just eating a lot of variety of foods and having fun with it, is key. What's next for you? How can people find you? Where can they find the book? It's already available, I understand, and we're really excited for you. So check out the Full Body Fat Fix.
Yeah, go and order wherever you prefer to buy books, whether it's in a bookstore or online. If you want to connect with me, go to stephenperrine.com, and there you can read more about the book. You can hit my social media. You can reach out to me and say hi, which is always great.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us.
It's been fun.
And yes, and just educating us on our microbiomes and how to keep them healthy and to lose and maintain your weight.
Thank you so much
again.
Thank you so
I
much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. If you like this chat, please follow us and subscribe for more conversations on how to get healthier and live joyfully at midlife and beyond. See you next time.